Hello, everybody. Folks online, you can see my PowerPoint slide screen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And welcome to the May 2025 Howard County Astronomical League public meeting. And it's great to see lots of people here in person. And it looks like there's quite a few online too. So I think this is great. We'll have a good meeting. And I'm looking forward to all sorts of fun events, which I'll talk about now, coming up this month and next month. And I'm really counting on the weather to change and how it's been over the last few months so that we can all get out there and enjoy. So here's our agenda for tonight. I'll start out with introductions. If there's anybody new online or here in the room that you don't have to, but if anybody would like to say hi or introduce themselves, now would be a good time. Anybody online? Okay, well, we got a bunch of old hands here and everybody knows the drill, so welcome. We'll just get right on with the meeting. So next up, we have some announcements. So I'll start with star parties. So normally we have 2 star parties coming up in the next few days. Actually, Phil, could you turn the lights back down to like PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, normally when I show this slide, I say, hey, we've got two upcoming meetings in the next before the next monthly member meeting. This time we have 3 because we have a special event, which we'll talk about in a second. But we have a members only party coming up on the 24th. So not this coming weekend, but the weekend afterwards. And then we have a special event that we're calling Member Mentorship Night. And so one of our esteemed board members who had the great idea of saying, hey, let's, I think it was David Stein, that said, hey, we've got a lot of new members in HAL. Our membership is up to a pretty good number right now. And a lot of new folks. And so why not have an event where they can bring out, I mean, at any HAL members star party, you can bring out your gear and talk to people and get advice from others and whatnot. But we decided to make an event specifically for that. So we've got a number of folks who are, boy, you know what? I'm getting ahead of myself. This is all on my next slide. Let me just say we have something coming up on the 31st, and then we have our next public star party with Phil Whitebloom, David Stein, and Ken Everhart. And then recent events, we've had a couple of well, we had our public star party on the 3rd, and it was a kind of a washout. Again, that's 2 in a row. But still, we had about 60 people, 60 members of the public kind of show up at the observatory. And the folks that were there that night, kind of gave a tour of the scopes and talked about what was going on. And I think it was a short but sweet night. Do you want to say anything, Joel?
It's just that we, a group of 8 came in a bus from, we had Mike from our group had done a presentation at Miller's Grant in Ellicott City at an over 55 community, and 8 people came over, and he said, oh, and if it had been a clear night, I have a bus that can bring over 24. And they were very engaged and asked lots of questions.
Terrific.
They'll be back, they said.
That's excellent.
And they joined, one of the people there joined, I think the activities director joined as a member last month.
Cool. So there you go. More new members another reason to have this new membership night, which I'll talk about on the next slide. But before I do, I'll also mention that we had a couple of impromptu star parties. Those are star parties where our members say, hey, it's a Wednesday night, but it's clear. I'm going to go out and open up Alpha Rich. Anybody want to join me? And when they send out an email to this email distribution that's this impromptu list, and and then you can show up and leave whenever you want. This is a picture that Jose Urias took at that meeting, at that Star Party on the 23rd. So there's a link to it, and actually,
Can
if you
I
want,
jump in here though? I want to point out that impromptu star parties are open to members only. So you have to be a member to get onto this impromptu mailing list.
thanks, Wayne. And so the way to get there, another thing I like to talk about these days is our new website, which is very snazzy. So if you go to the Howard Astronomical League, howardastro.org, and under resources, if you click on join email list, and then this will open up another menu, impromptu email list. That's the place, the starting point for which you can get yourself added to that list. Okay, another upcoming event, now that I'm on the right slide, talking to the second bullet, I'm talking to the first bullet on this slide, is our members night, mentors night. So I think I said most of this already, but we're going to have several of our more experienced club members who know visual well, know astrophotography well. Some of us, or them, because not me, I don't fall into this category, know how to star hop on non-electronic telescopes, if you have one of those and you want to do it. So yeah, the idea would be if you're having trouble with any of your gear, or if you just want to kind of brush up on some of the things, then we'll have people just standing by. I think we're all going to wear glow-in-the-dark red bracelets, so you'll know who the mentors are if you have questions. Anyways, if it's rainy, if it's cloudy, we're still going to hold it, because you can bring out your gear and we can talk. But if it's actually raining, we'll have a rain date. And then there's another event, the fourth of the 3 events coming up this month. It's actually, we'll have another chance to talk about this at the next meeting, which is that we have a partnership with the Howard County Conservancy. We'll have obviously have a partnership here with the Robinson Nature Center, but we also have a partnership with the Howard County Conservancy, which is up on Route 99, not too far, a little bit east of Alpha Ridge Park. And one of the benefits that we get as a club is when there's something happening that's low on the western horizon, they'll give us access to their parking lot and to the roads up there. And I've done it. I think this is me in the picture, actually. That's my silhouette right there. There's a great view of, along with James Willingham. I don't know who that is. But anyways, there's a great western horizon view there. So whenever there's like a comet that's low in the sky, it's a great place to go take a look.
Howard County Conservatory is always the best place.
It's a good place. For around here, it's one of the best places that has a clear view of the horizon to the west, unobstructed by trees and whatnot. So anyways, that's one of the things that they do for us. And so some of the things that we do for them are hold star parties sometimes with, we haven't done it in a while, but we're gonna have an event there where any HAL member who's interested they're going to invite their club members. And so it'll basically be a star party open to the public, but mostly a lot of their members will be showing up. So you can just come, bring out your telescope, and have a fun night sharing views with members of the public, just like the regular stuff at public star party, only on their site. If you're interested, there's more info on our website. Okay, so the next item, if we go back to our announcement lists, we got 4 announcements, and then our main speaker is going to come up. First is Arjun with Astro Camp, and then Chris, I hope Chris is online. Chris Miskowitz is going to talk about an update on something at his elementary school where he teaches. and then Crystal's gonna do book of the month, and we have a special Mission Patagonia report from Joel. So first up is Arjun. Are you on, Arjun?
Yep, I'm on.
I took the liberty of adding your picture to the slide.
Okay, that's great. So, basically, I've
So
been
the floor
doing.
is yours.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Oh, okay. So, I've been learning astronomy for a long time, I would say, since I was like 6 years old. That's when I met Mr. Bob at Howell and I started pursuing astronomy. And so I decided that it's been a while and I'd like to start, teaching astronomy to a lot of people. So this year, I thought I would try hosting a free summer camp. It's online, but I thought I'd try hosting it for 15 people. I'm starting off slow this year because it's my first time doing this. So I'm only accepting 15 people, but it's for kids ages 8 to 14. And so I think they will join a Zoom meet or Google Meet, and I'll teach them about astronomy. I have 15 lessons planned, and there'll be 3 days a week. So 5 weeks, 15 sessions overall. And I think it's a great way for me, I'll be able to get a teaching experience before I maybe start teaching myself in the future.
Terrific. And I can attest, as many in our club, that Arjun is an excellent teacher. Often, as shown in the picture, is almost every star party he's there, and his ability to explain things is very it's very good. So I guess people can go to sign up by using this QR code. Yeah, and
There's also a live
our website.
link on the web. There's a direct link for people on computers who can't use QR codes.
Yes, thanks, Steve. Okay, so great. Anything else, Arjun?
Nope, just thank you so much. And
Yeah, thank you for doing this. This is terrific.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got Chris Miskowitz. Are you there, Chris? Chris, are you online? So Chris submitted this slide, and I was hoping that he would talk to it, but basically it's just a thank you note. There's a loaner program where some House telescopes that have been donated to his school have been actually put to good use. And so without belaboring this, because actually I don't really know the details, it was just something he wanted to say thank you for. So everybody in Hal, take a bow. Next we've got Crystal with our book of the month.
Right, hello, everybody. So today I'm presenting our next book of the month called Our Accidental Universe. Our Accidental Universe Stories of Discovery from Asteroids to Aliens by Chris Lintott. I love the term accidental here for two reasons. Science is an ever-evolving process where surprising outcomes are welcomed. It makes science worth pursuing because if everything was perfectly predictable, well, we wouldn't really need experimentation and creative investigations of our natural world to answer these questions about the order of things. I think that as humanity continues to search for the cosmos, for signs of life, if we ever arrive at an answer of are we, whether or not we're alone in the cosmos, people may feel certain ways about the ultimate answer, right? Whether you're disappointed or excited. I think it's a question worth considering, and that not only the question, but all the discoveries that are made along the way are worth celebrating, because this journey is vital to our story, even no matter what that ultimate answer may be. So I appreciate that as I'm almost halfway through the book. I still have a little bit to go. I wasn't able to finish it, But so far, I appreciate that the author really strikes a good balance between humor and seriousness in the sense of taking these topics of aliens with a twist of real consideration, right? What should we be interested in? When you're thinking of an open-ended investigation, say like SETI, which is the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, what do you consider success? And is not an accidental discovery kind of a necessity in order to make it successful? And tackling questions like when we consider tracking near-Earth objects, whether those are asteroids or otherwise, how do we balance the need of creating a catalog of these objects that could be on potentially hazardous paths towards Earth, and understanding that as satellites and spacecraft and debris continue to populate the low Earth orbit, how do we strike that balance between the two so that we can continue to investigate further into our solar system and beyond? So as we look for these biosignatures or these signs of potential life, I think it's crucial that we search in the unusual places precisely because they are extreme or nothing like the conditions on Earth. There's just an accidental discovery waiting to happen. I highly recommend the book to space enthusiasts. It was a really fun read so far. I like the different topics that are covered in it. I think it's very beginner friendly as well. We're still in the process of updating some things to our website right now. So even though this is not listed yet in our HAL library, it will be available for checkout starting next month. Thank you.
Thanks. By the way, when was the book written?
Oh, this was published in 2024 with an afterword just added this year.
Cool. Thank you so much. Okay, Joel, you want to share your screen?
Yeah, if you don't get it right, and I turned off my
You
audio.
don't
I can
have to come
speak
up
from
here. Oh, you
And
want to
now
come
I
up here?
speak from up here and just, yes, share screen.
Yeah, you don't have to be here to share your screen.
I know, but then I'd speak from up here.
Okay, okay.
My seat.
Well, last time the person unplugged my,
No,
Thank-
so I should. I have to go back.
He's on.
I'm online, right?
so I think I need to stop sharing, actually.
We can stop.
Actually, I already stopped sharing. I just need to give you permission.
Right, because I don't even see it. I don't even see a share thing.
Okay, you should be able to share now.
Share. Can we see sharing? Yeah, we see it. But I want to just show it. There you go.
All right, now how do I make it show up in here? I guess
Bring up your Zoom window and full screen it.
thank you.
Okay, except for we're cited, pictures here are mine. This is Art Borgia, one of the cohort this year for Mission Patagonia, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But first, let's start about because everything starts with an alphabet soup. So AUI is probably best known organization that you don't know a whole lot about. They designed, built the VLA in New Mexico, Green Bank, and they run and operate these facilities around the world. ASAP is a program funded by them through an NSF grant. And I was fortunate enough in 2018, and part of this is a sales pitch for people to apply to these programs. So Mission Patagonia, please pay attention to ASAP and Mission Patagonia, and I'll tell you about those programs. ASAP Astronomy and Chile Educators Astronomers Program, Educators Astronomy Program. ASAP Ambassadors, I applied for several years as a competitive application. I thought I was doing planetarium work here. I was doing outreach. I thought I was eminently qualified. Turned down after a couple of years, and after several years, to continue to fund the grant and make it sustainable, they started doing a pay-as-you-go. So I did a pay-as-you-go, and it's about a $5,000 to $6,000 investment to go. But there still are grants and for educators and highly qualified people way beyond me who have gone on this expedition. And so that they fund that, and I'll get back to the other foundations in a minute.
So Chile, the country of Chile, long, skinny, everybody knows along the west coast of South America. That's about its scale, as you can see right there. But because of that, if you put that north to south, that means that we have, whoops, excuse me. That means that we have, and I guess a later slide, that we have 3 different zones really within a country. So the ASAP, this is January of 2018. I just thought I'd go through this really quickly because this is the astronomy portion of it. This was our cohort. Only people that you might know from any astronomy people doing astros all the way at the end of the table, Susie Gerton, who's worked with a lot of places, and Tim Spuck, who was our fearless leader here in here. And he still works for AUI. Great food and drink in South America. They're known for their pisco, competition between Argentine and Chilean pisco. I prefer because I've only been to Chile. There's in their pisco sour is the drink thing. Food is wonderful down there. We visited, the purpose of ASAP was to go visit the great observatories in South America. 70% of optical astronomy, Earth-based astronomy, visual astronomy is optical astronomy, right, is based in Chile on Earth. 70% of inches of telescope. That's even before Vera Rubin. Okay. So it was to go and visit these observatories, come back, speak of them in programs like this, and help advocate for continuing supporting astronomy research in Chile, because it's a really multinational effort. So this was at Gemini South, where they are monitoring Gemini North in Hawaii, and Gemini South, where we visited Gemini South. Let's see if this will go. $8.1 meter, Richie, how do you pronounce that, Richie? Then we went over. No, so that was on Cerro Pichon, which is where the Vera Rubin is. So we saw Vera Rubin being built then, so that was 7 years ago there. But then we went over to Cerro Pichon, and then we went over to Cerro Tololo. And it was exciting for me because Cerro Tololo was the site of these prompt telescopes. These remote telescopes that were originally part of a program from University of North Carolina, matching the Skynet network, matching these, and in Australia, where there's also still the prompt network doing these. And I was involved at the time in middle schools in Howard County doing the Skynet Junior Scholars Program. Arjun, attending here, hello Arjun, in cyberspace there, helped. It has been able to utilize some of the leftover, because COVID kind of shut down, and the ending of funding shut down the Skynet program, but there's still some supportive people out there, even though it's not a funded program. And there's telescope time, because it was providing telescope time to middle school students to be able to go out and use these telescopes when they weren't out looking for quasars, because that's what these were on call for as part of the original prompt network. But anyway, so we got to go to Cerro Tololo. That was pretty exciting for me. And we actually did a class. I did a class there to Glenwood Middle School. And one of my students took images in filters IRG, Arjun, you know what we're all talking about there, and then processed this of the Crab Nebula. Up there, here we are in the Atacama Desert, near the Alma Ray there, and there's the flyway and there's an incredible flyway up in the desert there. And that's where these 64 dishes are up in 15,000 feet in the Atacama Desert. There's Susie, rainforest. That was the machinery that carried them up onto those. We were now at like 10,000 feet elevation. Then we got in a bus and went up to where the array was. They made us wear the oxygen up there, but we were allowed to take it off as long as we weren't running. That was my experience with that. But so I was pretty comfortable. Actually, the youngest person in our crew was the only one that had any problems with that. I don't know what this thing is called. This is the thing that helps run, that helps open that up in running the radio array. Anybody know any of the pieces that are in there?
You from Green Bay.
And then part of the ASAP was going to seminars this time, going to schools and like that. And I just thought that's all I'll say about that. And that was our crew there. This is just some of the photographs. We had great skies down there. This is my favorite that I took. Is about 30-second exposure. There's down the center. Oh, I got to do that bad. We have the center of the Milky Way right there, and the August before. Some people know here that I go up to Maine in August to a camp up there, and my northern Milky Way pictures connected with that center of that. So I actually have one that goes the full length of the Milky Way. But this, when I posted this picture here on a Facebook post, I got an email from a guy in Australia. And he said, nice capture of the emu of the galaxy. And I didn't know what he was talking about. And the emu here is the emu with the Coalsack Nebula and the Southern Cross right here. And the Coalsack Nebula is the head of the emu down to his tail down here. And apparently it is part of the same kind of thing as we know of the wagon or the Milky Way or the Little Dipper. It is an aboriginal, and it actually crosses to a lot of Southern Hemisphere. This comes back in their storytelling over the years. This was up on Cerro Tololo of the several. These were all managed. We had professors there who just came down once a year. University of Michigan guy was coming down just to check his scope, but otherwise he was managing, running everything, paying for the telescope time back in. His team was doing that back in Michigan. This was my first try at trying to stitch together. This is only 4 images together though, but showing the large and small Magellanic clouds there. And the thing that I came away from the ASAP experience was this is back in 2018, times were already crazy in the world. And there's 21 nations there, and everybody was working together just to do pure science, to collaborate the way they can, to cooperate they can. So that's what I came away from that experience back then. Because of that, I then went to be able to be an ASAP ambassador and talk about this and then go to reunions. So this past September, I went to a reunion up in Pennsylvania. And there are now probably 90 to 100 of us now. It's been going on for 10 years. And everybody said, oh, well, you got to do Mission Patagonia. And I'm going, what's Mission Patagonia? They said, oh, just look it up online, do it like that. So as I meant before, because the law we have at 11 degrees south, 22 degrees south, and 33 degrees south, 11. So you got three big zones there. Excuse me. What did I do? Okay. So back to the alphabet soup before, there is a philanthropic organization in Chile, and they became stewards of this humongous piece of pristine landscape, like one of the most pristine places on Earth. But then what do you do with it? This is about 15, 20 years ago. What do you do with it? I deal with it. So I'll just leave that up for a second. So that's what that overall organization. So they partnered with other organizations out there and other nonprofits. Over the last 20 years, they built a series of trails, and there's probably within the reserve of Melamoyo. I'll show you Melamoyo Reserve in a minute. I'll just leave that up to the next slide there. So I think I have something, yep, reserve there. Right. Oh, that it didn't sound right. 22, 33, and 44. I knew I was off in my numbers of 10 there. So that's just the region we were in. This is huge reserve. And they built a series of trails through it. And I don't even know what the total amount, but not more than 5 to 10 miles of trails, but it's a series of boardwalks and pretty well-maintained trails, but still very small on a small foundation. Like I've kind of likened it to like the Robinson Nature Center kind of thing, but then it's a lot of collaboration going into it. But what are we going to do is, are we just going to maintain it, try to maintain it, try to get some research down here? What do they do? So, oops, I'll leave that up just for a minute. Okay, thank you. So that up for a minute. So the Melamoyo Reserve, you see a wide range. We were in a combination of rainforest, the archipelago there. We hiked up to a mountain range, but not too strenuous climbing. It was one day of hiking, really strenuous hiking. And so one of the things, back to that other alphabet soup, AUI, So AUI and Tim Spuckner, that's our fearless leader right there. He went and wrote a grant with AUI. Well, why don't we start inviting people to come down here, subsidize it, people to come down here, come back, be able to talk about it, get people to be stewards of the environment, a nature guardian, as the Nature Conservancy's mantra says, and also to kind of give some feedback as, hey, what are we going to do with this? And so that was part of what I became part of Mission Patagonia. I applied, so I applied to it. I said, well, exactly how am I qualified to do this? Which I do astronomy stuff like that. They said, look, it's early in its infancy, and they're doing research on it. One of our cohort was someone who was part of the grant, was doing pre, post, and interview surveys. So this is what we are. So I welcome you to look at this slide, and so I guess will be part of the recording as well. But to just to Google Mission Patagonia, because it's something still in its infancy. There's still one of the big things that we kept giving feedback is this is the most incredible experience. So here I'm 72 years old. This was, for anything to be like a life-changing or life-changing thing, it was the most amazing experience. So I'm going to briefly go through the slides and experience that I had there, because this is more of a travel log. Yes, we did have one really clear night that I had some astronomy. This was our cohort, people from a middle school teacher from New Mexico, Ed Ting, up here. Some of you may follow him for, he does astronomy equipment podcasts and on YouTube channel, and grad student, another teacher, and our researcher, and Yasmin, who's the AUI and our Chilean that I've known since ASAP, and now she's up in Washington, D.C. So we flew from, our expenses were just to get to Santiago from here. I came from the Dominican Republic, but from here, same kind of thing. It's about $1,500 round trip. The rest of it was $3,000, and everything else was included. So when you look at big tours to today or something you're saying, and you need to be relatively physically fit to do this, I encourage you to think about this for next year. And that's what people hear me talk about for the next year, because it's still, as I said, early in. We then, once we're in Santiago, we met there. Then we met one morning in our marathon day, and we flew down to Castro on the island of Chiloé, which is the Chilean entrance to Patagonia. Most people who've traveled to Patagonia pretty much go from the Argentine side from there, and the entry there. We spent a little bit of time in the town of Castro, which was a railroad center back in the to feed for their shipping down there. We visited a school. This is as close to a STEAM academy down there, and they were now starting to send some students after like 10, 15 years to university. Did some great work there. We met the students. We each gave a little presentation. And then so now we were down on Chiloé, and then at the end of that long day, we then got about midnight, and then delayed about an hour. So about 1 a.m, we got on our ferry, and the overnight ferry, we came down into the archipelago down here to the Melamoyo Reserve, which is just west of the Melamoyo volcano, extinct volcano, hopefully extinct volcano. So we came in, and this is what we woke up to as we came into the archipelago here. So this was, as I said, so very quickly, this is the I did not take this picture. One of our cohort put this up. This is coming into Melamoyo. Melamoyo in their language means 4 teats or udders from the 4 protuberances there, and that's going into where our reserve is back in this cove back in there. Pretty nice digs we had right there. Since there were only 3 guys out of the 8 cohort, we each got our own rooms over here in the side, because we're in this pristine environment, and we're going to see. And it was interesting. We got there. They told us you can touch, taste. Nothing is dangerous here. No animals. No nothing. Go on. Thank you. So you had to disinfect when you went through to go into the forest, and you got sprayed down. Okay. Learned about the culture there. Just things there. These are things the size of rhubarbs, or they call them the giant rhubarbs. We got to hike. This is our crew in the cypress forest. So Ben here, who was in the last picture there, he was a PhD in forestry, and he's walking something, and he's saying, "Oh, this would be a habitat for a puma." And I said, "Well, but there are too many people here. You know, we're walking." I said, "Well, how many people here a year? How many people walk this trail a year?" He said, "Maybe 60, 75. They're still trying to figure out what to do, because I said, with this property, go away. So one of our hunts was to go see the Darwin frog, which is an almost extinct from not so much as from humans, but from a fungus, which is one of the reasons we had to disinfect. This is about this 1-inch frog. As soon as it sees you, as soon as you have it in hand, it flips over on its back, it plays dead. That is all of its that is its unique identification marks. So that's how each one of their fingerprints, they play dead. Interesting thing about the Darwin frog, the male and female do their thing. The female lays their eggs in the forest. Then any old male can come, and when it's time, picks up the eggs, swallows them into their air sac, gestates them there through the tadpole stage, and then spits them out as frogs.
Wow.
Exactly. I just got just telling you about, I just got the tickles from it. So as we're holding this frog, nobody got the video of it, but all of a sudden the belly started to move. So we didn't see any spitting. We didn't see any spitting, but this guy was ready to do. These were beetles having it out all day long on a tree. The weather could change so quickly. The few star pictures here, that's the Orion upside down, the Pleiades down here at the horizon. So here we are at 44 degrees south. There's Tiffany here, Fierce Leader, looking back towards the Milky Way with the large and small Magellanic clouds. That's right after Ed slipped and almost broke his neck, and I was just trying some things I needed to learn better about masking. Then we went out on a whale watch one day. We saw the Imperial Cormorants. We got to see that was not that close there. That was probably only from about 150, 200 yards, but it's pretty. We didn't see any full breaches. That was as close as we got to a full breach. So that was pretty cool. The sea lions hung out for us. Right. Actually, the ravens, they wait there for the after the mothers give birth to their calves. They wait for the afterbirth. So that's the reality of what's going on there. And then dolphin would chase us along for a while. That is one big jellyfish. Thank you. Jellyfish there. We got to look at macroinvertebrates. We got to do an artworking class with this. This guy was doing innovation. We learned about innovation. Now this guy was had developed a printer, laser printer, where he's using Coke bottles to make the 3D printer stuff. And we are there, baby birds and all that. Everything else that's our crew. They did a great barbecue for us there. I did not take that. I think that might be me, but then Ed Ting took that one. And look up Mission Patagonia. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Is there any other questions for Noah?
I got one. What's the sort of the new stuff that everybody's looking for in the stars? In the what? Or what's the main interest? You mentioned quasars, right? Well, down at ALMA is mostly known for its the black hole picture from 3 years ago, putting together from a huge radio array. Right. Since this one was not an astronomy one at all, we only got the 1/3. I wasn't really so much. So what's really hot down there right now? I don't know what's there.
All right, thanks, Joel, for that. That was really quite interesting. I think it's very tempting to want to go do that, actually, and bring a telescope.
And it's warm when you go.
Okay, so now, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our featured speaker this month, Dale Ghent, who is a systems engineer, focuses on Unix and Illumos-based operating systems, which I don't even know what are. I thought I was a computer nerd.
Storage operating systems, data storage.
So he enjoys piloting, traveling, photography, and he, as many of us know, he's one of the contributors to the NINA software. If you're at all an astrophotographer, then you know about this software, which many people use. And he's been an active member and a board member of HAL for several years, who was the observatory director when the ILIG was first set up for its astrophotography. So we all owe him a debt for getting all of that organized. And and he's very active in HAL and often our service. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Dale.
Hey, should I mic on my laptop or
I think if you
or am I micing through your camera up here?
you'll mic through the camera.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine, Dale.
Okay, great. All right. I'm sharing now.
Do you folks online see Dale's screen?
You're showing your
I
slide.
do.
Yes. Yes.
You need to,
There you go.
there we go. Hey, everyone. Thanks for the introduction. And let me just arrange my windows here so they're out of the way and I can actually see the slides I'm trying to present here. I'm involved with another group outside of HAL, a research group called STELAR. And this is a group that is about finding ways to do science with small telescopes and help because we have a focus on doing science with small telescopes. It's geared towards translating that into organizations who can only afford small telescopes to do astronomical observations with, and that usually is high schools, two-year colleges, stuff like that. So you hear in the news about the large scale Vera Rubins, 30-meter telescopes, the Geminis, and all that stuff. And well, what do the smaller researchers do for telescope time? They can't possibly compete with all the major institutions who fund and have 80% of the time on these massive telescopes. Well, they fund their own smaller telescopes within their budget. So we try to find ways to do science, meaningful science with those small telescopes. So small telescope engineering, learning, and astronomical research. It's kind of a tortured acronym there, but that's what our little group is. We are a group of educators. Whoops, sorry, I keep hitting my mouse button here. Educators, engineers, software engineers, and professors and professional researchers. So we all collaborate together to design observing programs, any software that's needed to do that, the hardware integration, and then make these available to institutions who want to use or copy these kinds of templates that they can use on their own small telescopes. Now, small telescope for us is anything under 1 meter. A 1 meter telescope would be massive to any amateur, of course, but if you're able to fund up to about $1 million, you can get yourself a 1 meter telescope. But of course, you need some extra cash for a place to put that. But most have something in the half meter to 14-inch range. So a lot of amateurs can also get in on the action here too, if they have a large reflector of some sort. So what we do once a year is the educators of our group take a cohort of high school and undergraduate students up to Mount Wilson for a week. And Mount Wilson has it has several storied telescopes. The two major astronomical telescopes up there are the 60-inch Cassegrain. That was built in 1907, 1909 timeframe, bankrolled by Andrew Carnegie, built by Hale, and it served as a prototype for 10 years later, the 100-inch or 2.5 meter telescope at Mount Wilson. And so here's some pictures here of some kids here set up on the floor of a 60-inch. We do it right on the inside the dome and set up a camera on the 60-inch telescope. And we do speckle interferometry there. Speckle interferometry is a way of studying double stars, and we may see them as a boiling blob of light. But speckle interferometry is a way to rewind those atmospheric effects, basically, and separate those blobs of light into two distinct structures that you can then measure. You can measure the distance between them to get the angular separation between this double star system that you can now resolve. And then if you do these observations over years, you can then plot the orbit of the stars around its parent star. And so that's how we keep our double star catalogs up to date. We can learn about the radial velocity, position angle, stuff like that, all from the basic speckle interferometry method here. So we've developed camera systems and software that acquires the images in a certain manner, and then processes them later on to tease those blobs of light apart. So the kids do all the observation planning. They do all the observation execution, actually running the telescope and the camera system, and then they also do the data analysis afterwards. So they've been doing it for a number of years on the 60-inch. The 100-inch was just kind of sitting there, and it has been sitting there since the early 90s. Back in the early 90s, the Carnegie Mellon kind of disused the mountaintop. They turned it over to the Mount Wilson Institute, and the telescope's laid kind of fallow since then. So the Mount Wilson Institute wants to get it put back into working order. So they said, well, why don't you do what you're doing on the 60-inch? Why don't we try it on the 100-inch? And so this is the 100-inch telescope right here. Again, it looks like it was built by a shipyard, because it was hot riveted design, cast iron everywhere. But back in the 1910s, when this was designed, it was state of the art for its day. It's a English yoke type of equatorial mount it's on, so it kind of pivots between those two big white forks there. That's the declination, and then the white forks turn to adjust the telescope's pointing in right ascension. The top of it, actually, this is in its Cassegrain configuration, but the top of it can actually be plucked off by a big gantry crane in the underside of the dome, and they can put a Newtonian top onto it, and basically turn the Cassegrain telescope into a Newtonian telescope. And it's very fast, something like f4. The Cassegrain operates at native f16 focal ratio, and so that's the William Hubble, who
Edwin Hubble.
I'm sorry, Edwin Hubble, sorry. Yes, Edwin Hubble, thanks for correcting me. Used the Newtonian top to make his discoveries in the 1920s regarding Hubble's constant and the distances, the measuring intergalactic distances, and realizing that galaxies weren't just fancy nebula in our backyard; they were actually like very distant objects of massive scale. So this is the telescope that Edwin Hubble used for that, and it's been laying kind of fallow since the 90s. It's been visited by many important people. Einstein did research using this telescope in the 1930s, used its observations to confirm some of his theories of relativity. This is him and Edwin Hubble, Walter Mayer, and Walter Adams standing on the same gangway that's still there, approaching the 100-inch dome. And the inside of the dome, the control station, is still kind of just how it used to be, although the controls are modernized. This telescope was used for research up through the 80s, and so like in the 1970s, it got encoders, and they replaced some of the mechanicals with modern motors and stuff like that. But the control station, they've tried to keep it as much as original as possible, and here's a picture of it. So the two kind of microscope looking things back there are they're actually telescopes that go through a bunch of relay mirrors to see the dial of the RA and declination. And so the push buttons on that brass plate just above those microscope looking telescope things were the push button controls for the 115 volt DC power system that power the telescope. So you would look through you would look through one telescope and aim it in RA and then in declination. And yeah, so you would be looking through a bunch of relay mirrors to the actual needle on a scale on the actual axis of the telescope. But encoders are great. So they put encoders on the axis in the 1970s and has upgraded them. And so everything is computer controlled, but by hand. There's no go-to. You can't type in a celestial coordinate, an right ascension and declination, and just say go to. You have to index the encoders to a star at the beginning of the night, basically plate solve the telescope by centering it on a known star and saying, you are pointing at these coordinates right now. Then the encoders are indexed, and then you can drive it around by hand using the big gray panel there with the screen readout of the encoder. So
Push to, huh?
it's basically a big push to, yeah, a motorized push to in a way. And that's Tom Inagini. He's the technical director of the Mount Wilson Institute. Here's the old stuff is still around. This is the old electrical power board. Those are Westinghouse Edison white light bulbs there at the bottom. Those light bulbs were used as ballasts to soak up the extra DC power when the motors weren't running. So and they still work. So but this board is there for looks now. The power electronics, modern power electronics have taken over behind the scenes. And then, of course, if you needed to make a phone call, you have about 5 decades of telephony technology at your disposal there. I did not get a dial tone, though. So here's Edwin Hubble sitting at the top of the telescope at the Newtonian top doing observations. And that's the same top there on the right. They have it on the floor of the observatory. You can go up and look at it. That's set up for photography. And in the middle, there's in the very middle of the square plate up. I don't know if you see my mouse pointer, but right here, that would hold the plate glass emulsion film. And they would look through a reticle, a sighted reticle just above it. And that's what Edwin Hubble's looking through in the photograph right there. And to guide the image, like if you're familiar with modern astrophotography, you do auto guiding, right? Well, the guiding was done by hand, and it was done by hand by grabbing these big wheels on either side of the plate here and keeping the crosshair in that reticle on a guide star. So you would be moving the glass plate up and down and left and right, or diagonally, however you need to move it, using the X and Y wheels to keep the plate on the photons falling on the same part of the plate. So that's old style astrophotography.
How long of an exposure would they do?
An exposure would be hours long. And so they would have usually it was the assistants up there doing the actual exposure management. So that's a little bit of history. So if you ever get to go to Mount Wilson and do some sightseeing up there, or I'm sorry, the LA area, go to Mount Wilson. It's very, very fun. It's very good hiking around there too. There's Einstein peering through that same kind of eyepiece there. And it was used briefly in the early 2000s or late 90s for prototyping laser guide stars. So laser guide stars are commonly used today on the major observatories. And that was prototyped and tried out on the 100-inch at Mount Wilson. But it fell into disuse because if you walk out the side door of that dome and look right over the edge of the mountain, that's what you see. It's the LA basin. So the seeing is fantastic, but the light pollution just grew greater and greater over the decades. And so that's why, and at the same time, in the 1980s, construction of large telescopes had come along to a point where we're now building massive ones on top of mountains in Chile and Hawaii and elsewhere in the world that don't suffer from the effects of light pollution. And this is just a little movie here to demonstrate just how close it is to the LA basin, all that light pollution to contend with. So if you ever find yourself in Pasadena or someplace around Los Angeles, head up the Los Angeles National Forest Highway there, or Angeles National Forest Highway there, and take a visit. It's a great drive. So they said, why don't you try speckle interferometry on the 100-inch? And so the folks in my group wrote a paper proposing it. So all science begins with a paper and hopefully ends with a paper. This was a paper for studying the feasibility of it, or proposing doing it. And so we self-funded it. I already described a little bit of speckle for interferometry. I don't want to get too into the weeds with it, but one thing that the 100-inch is great for is because it's a huge telescope, has this massive resolution, and the seeing up there is great, and speckle interferometry kind of shrugs off light pollution. All right, so it's not the kind of thing that would really be perturbed by it by a great deal, way up there in the mountain and stuff like that. So what we do during a speckle interferometry run is we point the telescope at a target star. We make a lot of 20 millisecond images, exposures of the star. And what we're doing there is freezing the seeing. So we see the speckles of light instead of a blurred blob mixed up by the atmosphere. And then we record thousands of those frames, and then do the same thing on a reference star, a star that is a known single star, and that's nearby. So we can compare through a process called bispectral analysis and autocorrelation of that. We can through all that data, we can tease apart the structure and here I explain it here. We can tease apart those blobs of light using bispectral analysis and then autocorrelation. So
those are both in the same field of view.
So
The reference star, you don't have to move.
they
the
don't.
telescope.
They should be very close together because we want the reference star to be affected by the same local effects of the atmosphere. So we don't want to do like way over here a reference star. The other consideration here is because with the 100-inch telescope, the telescope itself moves quite fast, but the dome doesn't. And so in order to keep our cadence up with target after target after target, we had the dome actually locked facing due south on the meridian. And we would catch targets, we would time our targets so that if they enter the dome slit, we'd start imaging them, and then their reference star would follow, would be a star that we've chosen already. This is going to be the reference star for this target. This is going to be the reference star for that target. And they were all designed to be similar declination for to keep the atmospheric refraction factor same or similar. And so we would image the target, a couple thousand frames, zip back towards the east, and catch its reference star as it enters the slit of the dome, and we can then see it, image it for a couple thousand frames, and then wait for the next target to come into view. And so and this is all done by hand on that gray console pointing the telescope. So we had to come up with a kind of a novel system, me running the imaging software and Tom running the telescope, and him looking over my shoulder at my screen, so you can see how centered he's centered the telescope on the target star. So with his encoders telling him what RA and depth the telescope is nominally pointed at. at first, we were missing a lot of targets. We get the target, but then we get it kind of messed up and miss its reference. But then we got a good cadence going on, and we made some software improvements to help get us get that cadence maintained. At first, we thought passing post-it notes with RA and declination coordinates handwritten on them back and forth was going to be the way to go. No, it wasn't. When it gets to be about 2 a.m., the last thing you want to read in a dark room on a little post-it note is someone's scribble in pencil. So we had to come up with something different, and we did.
Did you set up a bunch of relay mirrors and two-step?
Yeah, we should have. So.
That's a very fast exposure.
Oh, it's a modern CMOS. We used for this run I'm talking about, we use the same camera I have on my telescope down in New Mexico now, a QH-600. But what we would do is our software would put a ROI of 512 by 512 or 1,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels around the target star. So we would be transferring very little data off the camera, and the cameras can easily do a 20 millisecond, 30 millisecond, 40 millisecond exposure. We pushed it up to 100 milliseconds and still was able to freeze the seeing. So earlier I mentioned, well, the whole name of this is speckle. And here's an earlier in that evening, I did a calibration run on a very obviously separated double star system. I forget the name of it. I think this is the heart. Charles's heart, it's called, but the Latin name is the name escapes me, but I was doing some calibration work on that, and I made these I made this movie of this is a 20 millisecond exposure on a double star. You know, these are two different stars, but the light from them is passing through the same atmospheric effect. So you can see how the atmosphere is convoluting the light as the light comes down through it. And it's doing it the same way for both stars. And those little things in here that you see, those are the speckles that we aim to capture with speckle interferometry.
Can you point that out again? Where's speckle?
What's that?
Oh.
Yeah, right. These two stars, and if here in the room, I'll go over. Can I borrow your laser pointer? Yeah.
How many arc seconds are we looking at on the screen there, across there?
Oh, the angular resolution of this, I have the number in my presentation. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but we are looking at these stars at 62 meter focal length at f22 24.4. So it was quite high magnification. And so the little speckles, though, these are what we're after, and these are what we record in every image. And what this does is once we get a large body of data of these speckles, we can basically correlate where they end up at the same time through different frames, so that we can then basically reconstruct where the star is and the parent star is relative to each other, and then actually we can get structure out of that. So that's the whole point of speckle interferometry, and how you measure light that's been mixed up between two bodies. Yeah.
What kind of structure do you get out of it? What is the importance of knowing that structure and...
So that's it. So once we do this bispectral analysis, autocorrelation, and reduction of the data, we get these two blobs of light. And these are the two stars. They're only a few pixels big, but what we can then do is we find the centroid of each, the center of the blob, basically, right? And we can then measure, the angular distance. So we know the distance to the stars. We can measure how far apart they are. We know that how far apart the stars are. We can at the beginning of the night, we plate solve to know the position angle of our camera. And so then we can know where the secondary star is around the parent, the position angle of it. And so once we do that, we can then start building a plot over the years. This is star WDS. This is the Washington double star catalog number for this particular target right here. And it's been, and these are all the different plots for it over the course of, I think, about 200 years. And so this star orbits pretty quick, and what we do is we add our data to this plot. And over the years, as technology has increased and we have gone from using visual separation and micrometers, eyepiece micrometers to measure this stuff, to now we can measure smaller separations using spectral interferometry. So this is kind of the end product here. And then you write a paper about it and submit it and to the U.S. Naval Observatory, and they add it to their Washington double star catalog orbital observation record for that star. So, but what we also want to do is take this a couple steps farther and also do spectral analysis of the star. So you can put a spectroscope on there, and if you know the spectral class of the star, you can get its radial velocity by measuring the redshift of it. So we then know not only where it is around the parent, but how fast it's moving. And then, but for stars we don't know that, we can then classify them. We can image the stars through different filters and do photometry through those different filters to derive the spectral class of the star, and then put them on the HR diagram. And then you know, that's stuff that even Gaia, for a certain population of stars, wasn't able to determine. So Gaia, the survey telescope that's given us a lot of precise information about almost every visible star that we can see from Earth, has a resolution gap for certain types of stars, and so we can go in and fill that information in.
So these aren't just double stars, but with the orbital, so they're binary star systems?
The binary star systems, yeah, that's what I meant. They're not optical doubles, they're binary star systems.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
well, that's cool.
yeah, so
Capture the spectrum, or do you look for line shift?
we capture the spectrum, and this is where I'm a bit of a novice on that part, and the folks that are going back to Mount Wilson this next week, by the way, are going to start doing is get the do photometry on these stars with the Sloan filter set, and be able to see how well we can place them on the HR diagram. So we haven't gotten to the actual spectroscopy part with the actual spectroscope. So that's coming in the future. And one of the drawbacks of working on the 100-inch, I mean, there's a lot of great things about it, believe me. But because it's been out of science for so long, it's been modified for visual use. And what happens is they added this, we call it the periscope, on the south side of the telescope. There's this tube and relay optics. I think maybe oh, there we go. That shoot light down, and down here at the bottom, this white tube here is a 130 millimeter refractor. And so they stuff an eyepiece on the end of that, and you can I think pay $4,000 for a full night for you and up to 16 of your closest friends, and people do it. But that's how they fund the operations up there at Mount Wilson. They maintain all the buildings, and through groups coming up and paying for time on the telescope. While we were there, a group came up, and a senior a senior home group came up and did a kind of a star party there on the floor of the 100-inch. So this turns the telescope into an f7. So this native Cassegrain is f16 focal ratio. This turns it into an f7, and obviously there's some extra mirrors here and some relay optics that the light goes through in addition. So what we want to do is get away from that. And part of the so this is the light path that goes through the telescope. So it comes down, it bounces off the primary, bounces off the secondary, bounces down to a tertiary mirror that's at a 45-degree angle. So it's called a Naismith mirror. And out the side, down the periscope, through the refractor, and then to the viewer. And that's where we had our cameras for this this run, this data collection run. We just stuck it right on the end of the refractor. That camera is now on the end of my telescope in New Mexico. A mini PC that we remote desktoped into. We ran the observations with Nina and the speckle interferometry plugin for it, and then we ran that all night. This is kind of a block diagram. I won't go too much into detail for time, but happy to share this with anyone who's interested. This is the block diagram of just how everything kind of fit together. And so, yeah, so how many arcs, what was the resolution? The image scale was 0.01 arc second per pixel. 62 meter focal length, f24.4. So we took all that data from that week we were there. It started out as an engineering run. We didn't even know if it was going to work. And after the first night, we realized, gosh, it's working. So we quickly shelled out some money for additional nights, and we got more data. And the smallest separation that we were able to obtain in the stars that we imaged was 56 milliarc seconds using that. So we were learning more. We were learning about the telescope as we went along. The primary mirror, that 4,000-pound circle of glass in the bottom of that telescope, has a immense amount of thermal mass to it. And so it took, we were fighting tube currents coming off of it, so standing waves of heat coming off the mirror. The mirror itself is not made of Pyrex or Zero Dur or any of those low coefficient expansion glasses that we use in reflector telescopes, diffuse quartz, stuff like that. No, it's soda glass. It's layers of wine bottle glass, basically. So it wiggles around early in the night, and it took until about midnight for things to calm down enough. So we were learning about how to handle our observations with that. So one of the things we're adding is our fans. We're going to blow air right onto the telescope to help disrupt those standing waves of heat, the boundary layer effect that causes, and the little bits of light diffraction. We want to mess all that air. We want to mess those standing waves up so that the light doesn't get extra refracted through those different densities of air, even just inside the telescope, the confines of the telescope. So we're still working on the papers. There's an example, the Post-it note. Yeah, imagine trying to squint at that at 2 a.m. in the morning, right? So what we're going to do is it was not 4,000 pounds of soda glass. It's 9,000 pounds. I had my numbers off there. It's heavy. And we encountered a bunch of problems. One of them was knowing our position angle of the camera, or the angle of rotation of the camera relative to the sky. And we need to know that to know where the stars we look at are around the parent star. When you're have such a small field of view, what do you do? You can't really plate solve on a star field. You only have one star in your field to do plate solving with. So what we had to do is we took a copy of a plate solving program called Plate Solve 3, and we optimized it for plate solving on the edge of globular clusters, where there's enough stars in the field, but not too many. And we can take a picture of the outer edges of this very dense globular cluster, plate solve it, get back coordinates in our position angle, and now we know where our camera is regarding its rotation against the sky. So we did that, and we're going to image in the Sloan I and Z bands from now on. These are in the near infrared. And the reason for that is because the longer wavelengths of light are less perturbed by the atmosphere. And so we want to not fight the atmosphere and in order to do that, we need to image in the near infrared. So the problem there is that sensors, or modern CMOS sensors, tend to have low sensitivity in that near infrared range, but super modern CMOS sensors, the kind that you may see cameras now, like security cameras, that have like nighttime starlight color fidelity, right? Those types of sensors are very sensitive in the near infrared, with quantum efficiencies or efficiencies up to approaching 50% in some cases, depending on the sensor. And so that is making these if we use a camera with a sensor of that sensitivity, that makes doing our observations in the near infrared, the Sloan I and Z filters, possible. So we have redeveloped our rig, and we're going to put it on the south port of the telescope. This right here, the periscope that I explained earlier, is on the opposite side of the telescope here. The south side here is dormant. This used to be a plate glass camera right there. And what we're going to do, we're working with Mount Wilson Institute to make a customized mounting plate for this rig right here, where we can have on the left, where we can have a wide, I'm sorry, I think the batteries in this are kind of going here. Where we can have a wide field camera and then a near infrared sensitive camera. These chips, these near infrared sensitive chips, tend to be small, so we need the wide field camera to point, and then we'll flip the mirror inside and shoot light up to the near infrared sensitive camera and do our observations on that. And then what we want to do is place that on the south port, so we have a semi-permanent instrument on the 100-inch telescope.
Yeah, I have a technical question.
Yeah.
If you go back.
Uh-huh.
So when you're talking about creating a rigging for all this.
Yeah.
And you have so limited time to actually do your observing.
Right.
How much time does it take you to make sure to get everything calibrated? So everything's lined up exactly in line.
Normally the telescope would be set up to do observations out the north port, which is where the periscope thing was. We'd have to flip the third mirror here. You can see the third mirror there. We have to flip it around, and our instrument package would optimally already be living on the south port here. It takes about 30 minutes to recollimate the 100-inch telescope after flipping that third mirror. And then we're ready for business. We can then point to a globular cluster, plate solve on the edge, get our exact position angle of our camera, and then start observing. So these kinds of time efficiencies are things that we are keenly focused on, because the less time we spend getting set up and ready to go, the more time we can spend on targets and gathering data.
Hey, Dale,
Yes?
on question online. I see in your diagram there, go
Oops.
back. You
Yeah.
have a flip mirror to flip between one camera and the other. Have you thought about using a dichroic beam splitter and collecting data simultaneously?
Oh, we have, and that was our first idea.
Okay,
We were going to machine up a kind of a cage that holds a dichroic mirror. If you're not aware of what a dichroic mirror is, it's kind of like one of those. It's a mirror that passes light and reflects light, but a dichroic mirror can pass light at a certain wavelength and below and reflect light of that wavelength and above, right? So you can split. I want half my spectrum to go to one camera and my other half of my spectrum to go to another. That's what a dichroic mirror is. But that we found that would cut out too much light. We'd have to increase the shutters. We'd have to increase the exposure time, which would mean we'd get less fidelity on our speckles. And
okay.
so, we also had no real operational need to image at both at the same time. So we decided that a full opaque mirror, switching basically on an instrument selector, that's what it's called, an optical switch in technical parlance, would be the best route for us. And it would simplify things because capturing data at high speeds off of two cameras at the same time introduces data storage and bandwidth challenges that you have to overcome. And we just felt that the optical switch route was the better of the two.
Yeah, it would double your data collection rate though.
Well, the main wide field camera that we would use we're really only interested in the science data in the near infrared. So plus with cameras, the pixel, there's difference in pixel scale and stuff like that would have to be rectified. It was just extra complications, maybe something in the future, but as we iteratively go through developing the setup, we just want to take it easy and not complicate things too quickly.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Especially because we have we have a week at a time on the mountain, maybe twice a year. So so our prototype of this system is here. This is called Bicam, or two cameras, and it's kind of a cheap version of what we ultimately want, but it uses a Bader flipped mirror that has been modified with a ZWO autofocuser motor to flip the mirror remotely. And the straight through has a ZWO full frame camera, and then the science camera up here at the time was an ASI 462 with an IMX 462 sensor in it. We did a big survey of commodity astronomy cameras and the sensors they use and how sensitive those sensors are to the near infrared. And at the time, the cameras containing the IMX 462 sensor from Sony were kind of on top in the near infrared realm. But since then, the IMX 585 has come out in monochrome flavors, and it's basically the same sensitivity of the IMX 462, but double the size. And so for us hand aiming a telescope, a over 100-year telescope, a larger sensor, just getting the star onto the sensor is a desired thing.
You only about $800
Yeah.
for the 585.
Right. Yeah, it's a good camera. It's a really, the cameras of that sensor are really cool. So so we did a follow-up in October 2024. We did the Bicam first use of it, and got to know its quirks and what we can improve upon, imaging known binaries, and plus some Gaia and Tokavinnen binary candidates. Andrei Tokovinin is one of the current premier double star researchers, and he has his own catalogs of candidate stars that he spends most of his time using Gemini South to image. And we did confirm in October that imaging through Sloan I and Z prime filters was definitely the way to go. But we should look into trying to use a atmospheric dispersion corrector for targets, especially lower in the sky. Those were our findings, and as I already mentioned, we've upgraded the uncooled ASI 462 with a cooled IMX 585 and ASI 585 monochrome camera. So we not only do we get a bigger sensor, it's also properly regulated, which makes our dark frame collection a whole lot simpler for calibration purposes. And yeah, in ongoing work, we're going to commission the Southport with working with Mount Wilson Institute and evolve our setup over time. Eventually, what we want to do is get it to a point where students are going up there by themselves and able to use the 100-inch telescope to collect science on double stars. So that's the ultimate goal of all this, is to develop this system, have it kind of semi-permanently there and available for those who want to use it. And giving the 100-inch Hooker telescope, the one that helped us discover the rest of the universe, basically a new lease on its scientific life. So that's it. There's our team.
Question for Dale? I've got one.
Oh yeah.
Who pays for all this?
It's self-funded. So we all chip in out of our own pockets, and we did do it, get an NSF grant late last year, but I don't know what the disposition of that is right now. But we've been self-funding our trips there and plan to keep at it. So we have a great group of people in this team, and they come from a wide variety of institutions. You can see there on the side, you know, there are high school kids and undergrads now first, second author on papers of data coming out of Mount Wilson. So it's very gratifying to see that.
How much rehearsal time did you do before you got there? So everybody knew when they got in kind of what the job was as best as they could anticipate, or when you were there during the daytime and trying to figure all that out, so you had optimal time to.
Lots of Zoom meetings, lots of emails saying who has this and can bring that, and I got the Ethernet cables, I've got the wireless routers, I'm bringing the laptop for this and the adapter for that. It's a lot of just mailing list organization and trying to keep things straight on Zoom meetings.
That is amazing. Any other questions? Are there any questions online?
I've got one.
Go ahead, Chris.
Dale, can you go back to the image of your imaging setup connected to that Mead?
Yeah, let me bring that back up. I'm sorry, I hit a button and ended my presentation and stopped sharing the screen. Let me bring that up.
I just wanted to ask about the position of the filter wheel, which looks like it was in front of the flip mirror.
Let me fix things up here. That and there. Okay. Let's see. You're talking about
Forward.
this?
Too far. Nope.
Oh.
Forward.
Near the end.
Oh, you want to go with the red cameras? That?
This one. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so your imaging filters are in front of the flip mirror?
Yes, they are. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that filter wheel is stocked with Sloan G, R, I, and Z. And a luminance filter, I think a dark blank as well. And so what we do is we can do a little bit of science with a wide field camera through the Sloan G and I. Because that's where the QE of that camera is going to be the greatest. But when we do the observations through Sloan I'm sorry, G and R on the wide field, and then I and Z on the smaller camera at the top there. So it's one camera at a time, and that's fine with us because taking 20 millisecond frames very rapidly is even still is several gigabytes of data quite fast. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yep.
Anybody have any other questions? Oh, one more.
I'm not an astronomer, but I can see how this is an incredible engineering project. But is there some higher level purpose of finding out all the details about the binary stars? I mean, is it going to help you with the universe expanding or?
So so I'm also new to this. Like I came into the group to help them out, and then in the process, I started learning about double star astronomy. And double stars were a very popular field of study up until about the late 80s, and then more galactic.
And when you're saying binary, not just double, these double.
Yeah, binary stars, double stars, multiple star systems. We think we found like you know what people thought was a binary system. There's actually a trinary system, stuff like that, right? That's now coming back into vogue because the field of stellar evolution is now picking up steam again. And so how stars interact with each other when they're in close orbits and stuff like that with variable stars that take material off the parent they're orbiting, and then it compresses, and then you get an outburst, and then and that cycle continues. So learning more about these stars has brought binary star, double star science back into the spotlight in more recent years. So because there's sufficient new questions about stellar evolution that people want to answer. Yeah.
Yeah, and the important part is that binary stars are the only way we can directly measure and determine stellar masses through Kepler's laws.
Right. Yes. Yes.
And that's critical to know for stellar evolution.
Yep. So now that that's all taking there's a growing renewed focus on that broad area of study. This stuff is now coming back into vogue. It used to be that nobody would, in the 90s, from what I know, like people weren't interested in it. There were other things to look at, but now it's back. Anything else?
All right, well, thank you, Dale. So awesome. Thanks.
Sorry about running over.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. So.
I will say, you know, to answer the question about preparations and stuff like that, I spent the day up there in the dome by myself coding, but I always would get sidetracked because there's a viewing gallery around the circumference of the floor of the dome that people can, it's open access, you can walk into and look through some windows at the telescope. And if I saw someone down there, especially if they had a kid with them, I couldn't help myself but stop what I'm doing, run down, open up the door and say, hey, come on in and get a close-up view of this, and take them under the telescope and see the mirror and all that stuff. And part of the outreach that I do at Halo kind of got me there. And so it's pretty cool. And then one of the people that I did that with ended up becoming a volunteer at the mountaintop. So
You were influenced greatly by your run-in with the sidewalk astronomer in Baltimore when you were a
yeah,
kid.
Herman, it
a
all
kid
began with
yourself.
Herman Hayne. I was walking with my girlfriend at the time in a park just next to Johns Hopkins University, Wyman Park. And this guy with a Meade SCT was set up there looking at Saturn, and that hooked me.
Yeah.
So that telescope is now in Halo in our observatory.
Okay, well, great. So let's move on to members' images and Daniel.
We're back October 10th when we had that aurora. I went to that star party at Glen Elm Country School. Here's the beautiful purplish pink sky, and when you look straight over, there's the Big Dipper.
Oh, is that the aurora?
Yeah, do you see the
Very
Big
cool.
Dipper?
You can see the Big
Yeah.
Dipper over.
Yeah, and then I'll present that other picture. Here's the red streak across the sky. And you see these 4 stars? That's Pegasus.
Awesome.
How I did it, I said, put my cell phone on night mode, a few second exposure, and adjust the sharpness, and that's how it showed up. So I thought the pictures turned out really well
Nice, very nice. And that's with the phone camera
on night mode. Yeah.
on night mode. And yes, here's the Big Dipper. And speaking of multiple stars or double stars, we got one, is it right here? Is it, isn't this like a double?
Miser.
Is that double?
Miser and Alcott.
To the
Yeah.
right, Mizar and Alcor.
Yeah, sorry, I'm having trouble seeing my own screen here, but,
And
thanks, Daniel.
you're welcome.
Harini, are you there?
Yes.
Can you tell us about it?
So this is my image of the Leo triplets. But it was mainly to observe the Hamburger Galaxy, also known as NGC 3628. It's 35 million light years away from Earth, and it's also known as the M66 group because it has M66, M65, and the Hamburger Galaxy. The Hamburger Galaxy was discovered by William Herschel in 1784.
Wow, that's fantastic. And this is with your sea star.
Yes, this is a sea star.
That's awesome. Thank you. You know, what, maybe 50 years ago, this would have been like a observatory quality picture, and not very many people in the world have been able to go out and capture images like this. So congrats. That's really, really quite nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's see what do we got next. Wayne.
Yeah, sticking with the galaxy theme here. This is the group Hickson 44. It's also in the constellation Leo. And so this is a group of a small number of galaxies, 4 or 5 galaxies. There's some fainter ones in the background. The group is about 80 million light years away, and the brightnesses of the galaxies are 10th to 12th or 13th magnitude.
Cool. And this is at Alpha Ridge.
Yeah, this was taken from Alpha Ridge Park back in April in the 2 nights of the 2 impromptus.
Very nice. Very nice. Thanks for sharing. Chris.
Yeah, so this is Mars on the left and the Beehive on the right. And Mars, the Beehive is very close to the ecliptic, and every couple of years Mars ends up being very near the Beehive. And so I was able to catch that last week using my remote telescope in Texas.
Nice. Yeah, actually, I was going to ask how you got this because the skies have not been very cooperative. So you got this remotely. Very nice. Cool beans. Anybody, let's see, what do we got next? Jose, was that it, Chris?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, nice. Jose, are you here? I don't think he's on, but this is from this, I showed a picture earlier from one of the impromptu star parties. This is another one I think he captured right there, which is a very nice M81, M82, and that other guy, I forget. And some of the you can sort of see a little bit of the, what is it, the IFN, the intra
Integrated flux nebula.
flux, thank you. You can sort of see a little bit of that there, and the very nice colors. So Jose is kind of moving right along, and Jose also did the Leo trio. This is with a bigger aperture than Marini's, and more time too, I guess. But also very nice. Jared, do you happen to be on? So this is another remote telescope. This was taken from the Starfront. This is first light with his telescope that's out in Texas. So this is M101 and a very, very nice picture. I also was hoping he was on because I wanted to compliment him on his framing of this. He got those other, I've got a bunch of data that I haven't put together yet, but I've done a fair amount of trying to frame it to get these other three guys in the corners as well, these other galaxies. So kudos to him for that.
If I recall correctly, he used a Red Cat 51, which got a pretty massive field of view.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yes.
Okay. Is that's on his remote is a Red Cat?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that explains why he's able to do it better than I.
Yeah, it's a very
Maybe
wide field of
He might
view.
have even cropped it, I guess, to get this. I was sitting there with a 5-inch refractor and like moving three arc seconds to the left and rotating, and I don't think I ever got happy with how mine looked. Anyways, it's a beautiful picture. And now Dale has some more to talk about.
Oh, this is M87. I had a couple of hours. I think this is like 5.5 hours of data on M87 that I took with my 14-inch reflector, and I wanted to see if I could get the polar jet of the plasma coming out of the core of M87.
Yeah.
And that is this little lick of light right here coming out. And so that stretches for 4,900 light years. There's a lot more than what I was able to resolve. Hubble has some very pretty images of it that looks like a nice long blue streamer coming out of the core of M87. But I was happy I was able to spot it, at least discernibly, and image it. So that's only 5 hours of data because I was in between targets and had some time to fill. So nothing in depth.
So that's with what kind of a telescope?
It's a plane wave CDK 14.
On a plane wave mount.
On a plane wave mount, yeah.
In New Mexico.
In New Mexico, yeah. This was in New Mexico.
And
so
well,
Everybody's got one of those.
I mean, I'm saying that because of the next two pictures that Dale submitted this month are just spectacular.
Location on that last.
Pie Town, New Mexico. There is pie there. There is a pie store. It's in central western Arizona. I mean, New Mexico, close to the Arizona border. So it's high up. It's about 7,000 foot elevation.
Is it near Silver City?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's near the VLA though.
It's other side of the state.
Yeah, you drive
Okay.
through the VLA to get to it from Albuquerque.
Yeah, this is just quite amazing.
So this is M106 and friends. These are all taken through Sloan filters, Sloan GR and I. So those are far more wideband than your typical photographic RGB. And so it's mapped IRG to RGB. So the red in here is actually near infrared. It's 700 nanometer to 850 nanometer, I think it is.
Well, it's amazing. Now, here's the one that kind of like had me going. The last of the images for this month.
Oh.
So that's M3.
Yeah, look at this one over here.
How's that?
That is just an amazing, and in fact, the screen is not doing it justice.
Watch it, I'm gonna turn the lights off all the way here. Yeah.
Yeah, this on my big monitor at home, I was like, my jaw dropped open when I saw this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Especially with this lousy camp projector.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I forget how many hours I spent on this. Oh, so I spent many hours on this, actually. This is a lot of data. There's in the STELAR group that I'm with, there's a colleague there doing studies on RR Lyrae variable stars, and M3 has a lot of those. And so I was collecting data for him over the course of several weeks. And I said, well, you know what? I've got almost a terabyte of data on M3. I'm going to do something with it. instead of mulching it into light curves, I stacked it into a photo, and there you go.
On the computer monitor, can you see the colors, some of the blue stars and some?
Yeah. Now the blue on the Sloan it's the G filter, and it's pretty wide, so it also goes into the yellows and stuff like that. So
You could teach from that slide.
Yeah, the blue straggler presentation. Okay, well, that is all we had for this month. So I want to say thank you for everybody who showed up. We have about 10 minutes. I'm going to end the Zoom call, and I'm going to end the Zoom recording. And but I'll leave the Zoom on, and we have about 10 minutes to chat if anybody has additional questions.